The Nintendo Entertainment System was an incredibly innovative piece of gaming hardware, almost, if not completely, saving video games as we know it after the infamous crash, with games like Super Mario Bros. And The Legend of Zelda, Metroid, constant things like that. However, it wasn't just Nintendo making banger games for their consoles. Some companies, namely Konami, were getting really in there by making hits such as Contra and the original Metal Gear. However, to Mr. Marana, right here, no series goes quite as hard as Castlevania. Hey, how's it going? I'm Anno Marana, and welcome to Anno Analysis, the show where I, the titular Anno, analyze and review whatever little thing catches my constantly waning interest. Now let's get reviewing. I wrote looking at camera at the end here, like when a character, knows context about something that another character doesn't, so they they look at the viewer to show them that something that was just said is untrue. Man, I'm killing it at writing today. Gameplay!
No.
Alright, now we're getting into the stuff that I typed out before actually playing the game for this video. Yeah, I'm honest with my fans, you're all welcome. Now, you're probably asking yourself,
Theo Willikers, Mr. Anno, sir. How does Castlevania, the Nintendo Entertainment System there, how does it play?
well, it ain't rocket science, that's for sure. On top of all that, there's also smaller things, like wall meat, little potion jugs that make you epileptic, and Roman numerals that allow you to juice up your sub-weapon by letting you throw multiple of the sub-weapon, as opposed to just tossing it out once and waiting for it to die of old age. That's basically the basics, though. A few parts of it feel a little clunked up, but for the first in a series, I personally find it's pretty impressive that they were able to mesh all this together and make a character that feels like a vampire hunter that's moving through deep enemy territory with a cautious yet determined stride to himself. But, as we all know, controls only mean so much if you don't give us good levels and bosses to chew on. Let's get to the chewing. Oh heavens. Would you look at the time? It's piss boil o'clock. So, Castlevania has 6 levels. Yes, I know that every screen transition is technically a different level, but I'm talking about the structure of start game, game hard till you find boss, kill it, and etc. until Dracula. So, by my poorly explained parameters, there's 6 levels. I'll get into Dracula in a little bit, but the main point here is levels. And I would honestly say that these levels are a pretty strong set of 6, with only fairly minor complaints to be had for them. And a lot of my complaints could easily go away with more playthroughs. But I also feel like that's kind of a moot point when you potentially are only playing this game once ever, first impressions and all of that. Digressing aside though, as I said, a pretty strong set of levels, and with that I think we can finally get on to the final part. The bosses! Now, I'm an Anno that thinks really highly and has very high expectations on bosses. I think they're about as important as the floor is on a house, and thus I will always be the hardest of an A-word when it comes to them. Because of this, you may think that Anno is going to be a big mean old bully to these little 8-bit characters and their puny little orange health bars. So anyway, the first boss up is the Vampire Bat. Pretty simple little fella, can't do much harm, kisses his kids on the forehead before he goes to bed at night. Really stand-up guy, basically. And because of this, he's a bit of a pushover. He just whips some axes at him, and you can't really fail. And that's about it for him. After that, we got the Mrs. Madam Medusa Head, and she's a pretty healthy progression from the Vampire Bat, with you having to dodge her baby snakes she shoots out at you while trying not to get backed up into a corner by her. Pretty trivial if you have the holy water on you, but you can really say that about any fight here. Though I will say, in my playthrough, I was able to beat her with just the whip, so either I'm the master of snake-haired women, or she's just not all that. Still fun though, big hugs to her. The Mummy Man! These guys are kind of to me, but in a good way. Like, they're a pretty forgettable boss in the game, probably the most forgettable boss in the game, but I don't find that to be a bad thing, especially since most of the bosses are more infamous than famous. Just 2 dudes mumming around the place. Gotta whip them together for extra damage, I think, but if I'm wrong, then that's tough luck. I'm a reviewer on the internet, I literally can't be wrong, so... Oh, also, holy water rinses them dry, but, that's pretty obvious. Now for the next one, Frankenhunch, I like to call him, it's a bit of an interesting case. The thing about this one is that, unlike the mummy fight, this boss has two dudes that are different. You got Tall Boy Frankenstein over in the corner, and Hunchback kinda going everywhere in your general direction. I find the fight kinda neat since you have a choice in the matter of how you go about it, with letting you opt into either focusing on the slow and stationary Frankenstein, or trying to predict where Hunchy is going to end up. I could even imagine that with some real gamer energy, you could line up a sub-weapon like the Cross to double dip, and hit both of them at the same time with the same weapon. You can make an argument that the Hunchback is a little too in your balls most of the time, but I attribute that more to a Fleaman as a whole kind of problem, personally. But that's just me. Next, and almost last up, we've got the big D to the E to the ATH, better known as the stupid dumb I hate this game boss. Yeah, I think I gotta agree with most people here. Death is a super rough dude, but I don't think he's designed bad by any means. I think a lot of it just has to do with his level. Or, more specifically, the room leading up to him specifically. Specifically. I'm really good at writing. And maybe a smidge of his projectiles just being a little too insane too kind of contributes to that, but I don't know. I died like 40 times to this boss, I'm not kidding. But, egg-sucking aside, I can put that past me and say that Death is a good boss in my opinion. I just wish his goons and goonettes would take a hike, so me and him could be locked in an everlasting combat wherein which I don't show up to the fight at half health and an arm gone.
And now, for the moment you've been waiting for, the fight against the titular owner of the Castlevania, Dracula!
Anyway, imagine, if you would, the feeling of making it past the last level in the game, seeing the night sky and those haunting stairs that go even further up, to the tip-top of the castle, as you move your feet and pump your fist forward, with every step feeling heavier and heavier, almost like the air itself is getting thicker, and as you finally make it to the last step, you see a room. A simple little hallway that leads to a single little room with stained glass and a little coffin. The coffin of the one who has cursed your family for generations. The one who has chained you and your lineage to a destiny and a responsibility that you will never truly be rid of. The coffin of 𝓢𝓹𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸 perfect blend of difficulty, with his first phase being incredibly simple yet daunting all the same. I remember when I first played this game thinking about how ridiculous he was and how it would be impossible to beat him, let alone any other phases he might have in store. But with that 𝓾𝓆𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸𝓸 It clicked. The way to beat Dracula's first phase is timing. Right when he lifts his cape up after teleporting, you walk towards him and jump. If done correctly, you should be up and over the fireballs, and in perfect head-whipping range, since that's the only part of him that takes damage. After that, he will teleport again, and you rinse and repeat. But steel thyself, for the fight is not over yet. Pushed to using a more monstrous form, Dracula springs at Simon with a surge of ferocity, taking less downtime and constantly hopping towards you while spitting fire at you to mix you up. Now at this point, you have two conventional ways to do this. You can either A, keep your spacing and your timing perfect, and whip his head every chance you got while staying cautious about the fireballs, or for when he won't jump high enough for you to slink under him. Or, you could use a little divine assistance to do the job. Oh yeah, that's right. We're using the holy water, baby. With that, the day is saved. The castle crumbles and the Belmont family has fulfilled their long-standing quest once again. Only thing to ask now is, for how long? Castlevania is a really interesting series, for me personally. It's a series I feel I've neglected for a lot of my life, and that's never really sat with me well. It has so much concepts and themes that I absolutely adore, from vampires and all the little tricks and quirks about them, to the themes of legacy and a generational evil that needs to be bested by descendants of the previous protagonists. JoJo fan, ahoy. There is so much to love about this franchise, and I frankly think it's time that I gave it the just attention and thought it deserves. So with that being said, I'm Anno Analysis, This has been Anno Analysis, and welcome to what will eventually be known as my Castlevania retrospective. Goodbye.
Just like the wind, I've always been drifting high.